Welcome to Space Drift. Please subscribe. Let's talk about cars, a part of daily life for millions of Americans, woven into the fabric of our routines and our culture. Specifically, let's focus on the vehicles that fill our highways and driveways, the ones we rely on to get to work, take our kids to school, and explore the open road. In a move that's left the industry reeling, Toyota and Honda, two of the world's most trusted automotive giants, are pulling back from the US market. This isn't just a minor business decision, it's a dramatic retreat that began in August 2025, sending shockwaves through communities, dealerships, and families who depend on these companies for their livelihoods. The catalyst? Steep new tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, targeting Japanese cars and auto parts in an effort to boost domestic manufacturing. For Toyota and Honda, these tariffs didn't just raise costs, they made it nearly impossible to compete with American automakers on price, forcing them into an impossible corner. Their response was swift and decisive: cut their losses, scale back operations, and begin the painful process of withdrawing from a market they've helped shape for decades. The fallout has been immediate and intense, sparking panic about the future of American manufacturing, the stability of thousands of jobs, and the affordability of cars for everyday people. For years, models like the Camry and Accord weren't just imported, they were built right here in American factories, by American workers, supporting entire communities. Now, that partnership is unraveling, as these companies pull billions in investment, close plants, and leave behind uncertainty for workers and towns alike. The consequences are just beginning to unfold. Entire plants are shutting down, and beloved models are vanishing from showrooms, leaving consumers and employees in limbo. This is more than a business story. It's a fundamental shakeup of the US auto industry, all triggered by a single sweeping policy change. The big question now is, what happens next? Will other foreign automakers follow suit? And was this drastic move truly worth the cost to American workers and consumers? Buckle up. The road ahead is uncertain, and the ride is just getting started. You keep hearing the word tariff. It pops up in news headlines, political debates, and even in conversations at the dinner table. But what does it actually mean? Why does it seem to cause so much confusion and debate? Simply put, a tariff is a tax that governments place on goods coming into a country from abroad. When a product crosses the border, the government charges a fee, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. The main idea behind tariffs is to make imported products more expensive so that shoppers are more likely to choose items made in their own country. It's a way to give local businesses a leg up. For example, in 2025, the Trump administration imposed a hefty 25% tariff on cars imported from Japan, targeting popular brands like Toyota and Honda. And it didn't stop there. A 15% tariff was slapped on car parts, making it more expensive to bring in everything from engines to tiny screws. Some items were hit even harder. Semiconductors, the tiny chips that power everything from your car's navigation system to its safety features, faced a staggering 100% tariff. The goal behind these tariffs was clear: force automakers to build more cars and parts in the US, and in turn create more American jobs and boost local manufacturing. But here's where things get complicated. Companies like Toyota and Honda don't just operate in one country. They rely on a vast, interconnected web of factories, suppliers, and workers all over the world. In fact, a single car might be assembled from parts sourced from a dozen different countries, each piece traveling thousands of miles before ending up in your driveway. These new tariffs make it much more expensive to build cars in America, even in factories that are technically American. The cost of every imported part goes up, and those costs add up fast. Suddenly the math no longer works for these companies. What once was a profitable operation now becomes a financial headache. As expenses skyrocket and profits shrink, the tariffs that were supposed to protect American jobs have made it too costly for companies like Toyota and Honda to keep running their US operations as usual. Dealerships close, and factories sit idle. Instead of boosting US manufacturing, the policy has triggered a crisis. Factories are shutting down, investments are being canceled, and uncertainty spreads through the industry. The entire auto industry is thrown into turmoil, with workers protesting and assembly lines grinding to a halt. Ironically, the very policy meant to help American workers is now putting their jobs at risk, leaving families and communities uncertain about the future. That's the paradox of tariffs in today's global economy. In trying to protect, they can sometimes do more harm than good. The response from Honda and Toyota was swift and painful. Within days of the new tariffs being announced, both companies made drastic decisions that sent shockwaves through the entire auto industry. Honda is closing its Marysville, Ohio plant, the first Japanese auto plant in the US, eliminating 3,500 jobs. For decades, this facility was a symbol of international cooperation and American manufacturing strength. Now its closure marks the end of an era for thousands of workers and their families, leaving a void in the local community. Toyota halted its expansion in San Antonio, Texas, and is laying off 2,000 workers. The company had ambitious plans to grow, but now those dreams are on hold, and the future for many employees is uncertain. The financial burden of tariffs made further investment impossible. Rising costs and shrinking profits forced both automakers to make tough choices, prioritizing survival over growth. Both companies are also stopping most exports of new vehicles from Japan to the US. This means fewer Japanese cars on American roads, and a major disruption to the global supply chain. For American consumers, this means fewer choices at dealerships, higher prices, and longer waits for new models. The days of easily finding your favorite import may be over, and with the disappearance of beloved models, car enthusiasts and loyal customers are left disappointed, watching as iconic vehicles vanish from the market. The impact ripples out. Suppliers, truck drivers, and local businesses all feel the pain. Every job lost at the factory means less business for the companies that support it, from parts manufacturers to local diners. The closure of a single plant affects hundreds of smaller companies and thousands of jobs. The economic shock spreads far beyond the factory gates, touching entire towns and regions. These aren't isolated events. They're the first dominoes in a potential industry-wide collapse. Each closure increases pressure on other companies, threatening a cascade of layoffs and shutdowns. The chain reaction is just beginning. As more plants close and more jobs disappear, the effects will be felt across the entire economy. The American auto landscape is changing fast, and not for the better. Communities, workers, and consumers alike are left to wonder what the future holds as the industry faces its toughest challenge in decades. Behind every factory closure are thousands of families facing an uncertain future. For many, these jobs were careers and the backbone of their communities. The ripple effect is massive, an estimated 20,000 jobs lost when you count suppliers and local businesses. Small companies that depended on Toyota and Honda are shutting down. Local economies are devastated, property values drop, businesses close, and public services suffer. The promise of bringing jobs back now rings hollow in towns watching good jobs disappear. Workers feel betrayed. They built American cars for Japanese brands, only to be caught in a trade war. The policy meant to protect them has left them as collateral damage. Sleepless nights and anxious conversations are the new reality. For many, the American dream is slipping away. The financial toll is staggering. Over $11.7 billion lost by automakers due to tariffs by mid-2025. Toyota alone lost $3 billion in a single quarter, slashing its annual profit forecast by 16%. Honda's profits have turned deeply negative, squeezed by tariffs and the costly shift to electric vehicles. These losses forced Honda to close its Ohio plant and Toyota to halt expansion. Even American companies like Tesla are hurting, with tariffs adding $300 million to their costs. In today's global economy, no company is immune. Tariffs aimed at foreign competitors end up hurting American businesses too. Billions that could have gone to innovation or jobs have vanished. The industry is bleeding and the pain is spreading. Building economic walls has proven costly for everyone. Politically, the fallout is fierce. Trump calls the tariffs a victory, insisting they'll bring manufacturing back to America. Biden calls them reckless, blaming them for job losses and higher prices. The Japanese government urges the US to honor a deal to lower tariffs, but uncertainty reigns. Workers and consumers are caught in the crossfire of a Washington blame game. Each side claims to have the answer, but the reality is chaos for those on the ground. The diplomatic rift is growing with no clear solution in sight. For American families, political spin offers little comfort. The biggest impact lands on American consumers. Car prices are rising. 25% tariffs on imports, 15% on parts, and automakers are passing the costs on. Even US-assembled cars are more expensive since they rely on global parts. Popular models like the Camry and Accord are disappearing from showrooms. With fewer choices, competition drops and prices climb even higher. The era of affordable new cars may be ending. Families may be forced to keep old cars longer or pay more for used ones. For many, a new car is becoming a luxury, not a necessity. The dream of affordable, reliable transportation is slipping away. The market is shrinking, and consumers are paying the price. The consequences are real, and they're hitting home. So, what's next for the American auto industry as it faces these new challenges? Experts warn that rebuilding domestic supply chains will take years and require billions in investment. Automakers are hesitant to commit, fearing unpredictable future policy reversals. Some, like GM and Tesla, are investing in U.S. production, but these moves alone won't solve immediate job losses or high prices. The industry is fundamentally global. Economic nationalism often clashes with reality. Experts argue for working with allies to build resilient supply chains, not just walls. The current approach is a lesson in unintended consequences for everyone involved. The future is uncertain. Will more automakers leave, or will policy shift yet again? For now, workers and consumers are left waiting for answers and clarity. The stakes couldn't be higher for America's auto industry and its people.